All this equipment might seem a little overwhelming, but I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to build this workstation. And it all starts with our Avenger C-stand over here. This is a rollable C-stand, and it gives us the ability to roll this entire workstation around the studio so that if my client happens to be standing on the other side, I can roll this station around, and it doesn't really have to be static. It gives us the ability to move this workstation around and keep it in motion. We're holding this down with a Manfrotto sandbag so that it's weighted, so it's not so light, because we're going to stack a lot of stuff on top of this. The first thing we want to stack is this ViewSonic monitor. This is a VB2468. It's a high definition monitor that's going to be our main source of how people view our images. It's being held by this Tether Tools studio mount here, which is we're going to mount this on top of our C-stand. Lock it in, just like that. I'm going to raise this up so that we get a little bit of height here. Raise the second tier up. And you want this to be about eye level. It's obviously a little too tall, so we're going to bring this down a little bit. Once we have that mounted, we're going to move on to our tether table. This is the table in which our laptop, our MacBook Pro, is going to sit on. There's a few things I'm going to run through on this. One, we have this Tether Tools Pro Pad. This Pro Pad keeps our laptop from slipping off the actual table, because underneath this is this steel. It's this material where a laptop can slide off this. So this Pro Pad prevents that. Then we have a couple of accessories on the bottom of this. One, we have this little bay that's going to keep our backup hard drive. This little bay provides a room to where we can slip in a hard drive and it's out of the way, and so we don't have to mount our hard drive to anything. Now that we have our Tether Tools tether table, we need to rig this to our C-stand, and you need a few accessories to do that. It all starts with this Tether Tools master clamp, otherwise known as a super clamp. This is a clamp that's going to attach to our C-stand, and then we're going to run an arm bar and then to an elbow, which is going to mount this table to our C-stand. So we have our rock solid arm bar here, and we're going to place this into this section of our master clamp, and it locks in there and screws tight. Next, we're going to place our rock solid arrow elbow onto the front end of this. Screw this in so that remains tight. Then what we're going to do, we're going to take this section and clamp it on about right there. And you always want to make sure that this is super tight, because you're going to put some weight on it. So even if it feels a little loose, tighten it even more to arm tight. Now we're going to adjust this stud here to about right there so that we can now place our tether table onto the stud. And you can see that there's a spot here that we can do that. So now we're going to take our tether table, place that on top, and then screw this in. Make sure it's super tight. And the benefit of this elbow is that you can adjust this tether table to however you want it. I like to be a little bit tilted so that I'm able to type on the keyboard. And then you kind of just adjust it to wherever it needs to go. Perfect. All right. So once you have that in place, we're going to just start applying some accessories here and building this workstation. First, we're going to hook on these little C-hooks here. These little hooks allow us to keep all of our additional cables and accessories organized. And we mount this right onto our tether table. We have 3 here, which allows us to keep very organized with our tether table. Next up, we want to take another master clamp, and we have this, which is a J-hook. And so we're going to use this to mount our gaff tape on the back side of this, or any other accessory that we might need on set or on location. This J-hook goes right into this master clamp, just like this. And we're going to mount this on the back side of the C-stand. And this little hook here is going to give us the chance to really put anything you want. We like to place gaff tape on this. And so I have instant access to gaff tape right on the back of our tethering workstation here. All right. Next up, we've got our MacBook Pro. This is a fairly new MacBook Pro that we use, and this is our main hub for tethering. And so we're going to go from our camera into the MacBook out to an external hard drive. And all we need to do is put our MacBook right on this tether table here. And again, this Pro pad is going to prevent this MacBook Pro from slipping off this tether table. But there's one additional accessory that we've got to make sure that this MacBook Pro is secured. And this is a Tether Tools strap that's going to go from one side of your tether table to the complete opposite side. And again, this strap is just an additional source of security so that this MacBook Pro does not slip off this tether table. Okay. Now that we have our MacBook up there, we're going to start working on our cables and how to organize our cables. So I'm going to flip this around just like this. So we obviously need to keep our MacBook charged. So we're using a standard MacBook charger here. We're going to slip this under there. And you're going to have all this, you're going to start having all these cables because we have this extension cable here as well, which we need to use. And we also have all these other cables. And so what we need to use here is what we like to call the strap-more. And so this Tether Tool strap-more rigs on the back side of this C-stand. Just right here. Using Velcro. And it's padded so that you can put really anything you want, any sort of accessory, or secure any sort of accessory or charger or cable, anything you need within this Velcro strap. So this strap-more is going to hold our MacBook Pro brick here, this power brick. And now we're going to secure this extension cable so that we can run power from our ViewSonic monitor and our MacBook Pro out to an external power source or to a battery pack, which we can mount on the bottom of the C-stand as well. And we use this and we secure this using these A-clamps. And so the more A-clamps you have in a studio, the better. We use these things for everything. And so these are Tether Tools A-clamps, and this is how we're going to mount this extension cable to this arm bar. So now we can plug this into here. And this will run out to our power source. Now that we have our MacBook Pro plugged in, we need to plug in our ViewSonic monitor. Sweet. Just need to run this power right to our extension block in the center. Right there. You can see that we have a ton of cables here, and it's kind of an unorganized mess. So I want to organize this and clamp these together using these small A-clamps. And you can even get these small baby A-clamps where you can find at any local hardware store. These things are super useful for cable organization. There we go. And so you can clamp these cables and then clamp them to the actual C-stand so that they remain organized and secure. And obviously this cable is hanging out here. So then we can use one of our baby A-clamps by wrapping this cable up here and then clamping this to our tether table. Just like that. So you've got really nice organized cables. There we go. Okay. So once you have organized your cables, you've got your monitor mounted, everything's plugged in, your MacBook Pro is on your tether table. We're now going to start adding some additional things that we need here to get this party started. And it starts with an additional external hard drive. And so as we reviewed in the tether table review here, we can place this hard drive in this hard drive bay here. And then we can run a USB 3 cable to our USB 3 port onto our MacBook Pro. This is a Lacy 2 terabyte rugged external hard drive that we use often on location, and it's durable. I've had it for a number of years. It's a great hard drive. Actually unplug that. Just gonna go to the other side. I can use that. Okay. All right. Okay. So we've got our external hard drive plugged up. Now we need to start talking cables here. So since we're shooting on a 5D Mark III, we're going to be running USB 2.0. I do have USB 3.0 cables that I keep for a Phase 1 system or maybe a Nikon D810, something like that. But in this case, we're using a 5D Mark III. So I've got a USB 2.0 Tether Tools cable here. And then I've got a Tether Tools extension cable because I want to extend the length of this, which is going to give me a little bit more freedom to move around, to walk around. And we secure these cables using these extension blocks. And so we can connect both of these together, just like this, and then secure it with this extension block so that this doesn't rip out on set. So we're just going to pop this together. There's these two rubber washers that go over the cable that are going to secure the cable to this extension block. Pop that in there. Close that up just like that, and then you screw this in. And you've got a secure connection that's not going to fail. So we've got our two cables here. We've got our extension, and we've got our USB cable that's going to go into our camera, and then this end is going to go into our computer. And And we can use these little C hooks here to mount this cable up. Okay. Now, one thing we want to keep in mind here is that this cable can easily rip out of this MacBook Pro if someone does happen to trip, fall, or pull at this cable. So what we can do is use this jerk stopper system. And the jerk stopper system is two pieces. It reduces the jerk on your camera and really prevents any sort of ripping out of your camera or anything like that. And then this side prevents the cable ripping out of your MacBook Pro. So you just place the cable here and lock it in. So this A-clamp with this lock here really prevents any jerk of this cable coming out of the MacBook Pro. And then on camera, this jerk stopper is going to prevent the same thing on your camera. You're going to hook it onto this strap mount here on your camera. And so when a cable is attached to a USB port, it locks the same way as this does right here. So I'll show you. Okay. So we've got our tether cable. So we've got our tether cable here. It's going to plug into our USB port. And we're going to secure this, locking it just like that. And so this prevents any sort of jerk from the cable. So if this cable jerks, it's not going to jerk out of your USB port. So there you have it. This is my tethering workstation. And this is what we use in the studio. Now, if we're going on location, there's a few things we adjust here. First, we don't use our monitor. We don't need our monitor. We want a mobile system on location. Secondly, we're going to take this Think Tank Pixel sunscreen. And what this sunscreen does is blocks out any unwanted light or any hard sunlight, so my clients and my creative team can really see what's going on the MacBook Pro. And we take all of this and we mount it to a cart that's rollable, that we can roll through the location as we shoot. It's a very mobile system again. It's very different than this, but it's still the same basic setup. So I think we're done here. I think we're ready to shoot. So we're gonna get our model, Kaylin, and we're gonna get started with setting up a session in Capture One and put this workstation to use. So we've captured a few shots of Kaylin. I'm really digging this direction, but I want to work with Bethany and Hunter a little bit more to get a final product. And that's it, guys. That is my tethering workstation and my tethering workflow. That's how I do it in the studio every single day. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and remember, you can hit me up on social media at Clay Cook Photo across the board on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me, info@claycookphotography.com. Thanks, guys. See you soon.